Welcome to my Sacred Revenge channel, where betrayal isn't just exposed, it's answered.
Then I heard his voice, my son Daniel's voice. "She's too oblivious to grasp what's truly happening," he chuckled. The air around me seemed to crystallize, every particle suspended in dread. My spoon clinked against the porcelain cup, a sudden jarring sound in the otherwise quiet room. The gentle scent of honeysuckle from the candle Amelia had given me last holiday season drifted absurdly. Peacefully, as if the very air itself didn't comprehend the bombshell that had just exploded. Before I begin telling you my story, let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and if you'd like to share your own story, feel free to write to us. My hand trembled almost imperceptibly as I reached for the phone. The line was undeniably still open. Daniel laughed again, a coarse, knowing sound, and Amelia, his wife, joined in. "Seriously?" She giggled, her voice dripping with condescension. "She practically handed it all to us. She genuinely believes she's being helpful. God, what an imbecile." Daniel scoffed. "Let her cling to that delusion. As long as she keeps signing whatever we need, who cares what she thinks?" I didn't cry, not then, not yet. Instead, I carefully placed the receiver down as gently as if it were a fragile bird. My fingers felt like they were sculpted from glass, delicate, hollow on the precipice of shattering. The words reverberated in my mind, echoing louder than any scream I could have uttered. I had raised him alone after his father passed. I had shouldered the immense weight of our small family for decades, pouring every ounce of my being into his upbringing. And now, the man I believed I had molded into a good, honorable person was mocking me behind my back, laughing at my perceived naivete. The teacup, as if on cue, tipped over in slow motion. Chamomile tea cascaded across the cool marble countertop, then dripped onto the worn, hand-stitched rug I had lovingly created in my 50s. I remained rooted to the spot, staring blankly at the spreading mess, not just the tea, but the profound mess of the illusion I had unknowingly been living in for years. Then I whispered to myself, my voice even crystal clear, "Not anymore." That morning, mere hours before I stumbled upon the devastating truth, I had felt nothing but overwhelming pride. I had stood at the bank, a wide smile gracing my lips as the teller handed me the final mortgage receipt. Daniel and Amelia's house officially paid off. No more crushing interest, no more monthly financial strain. It was my gift to them, my legacy, a tangible piece of my enduring love. The drive to their house had been serene, my heart brimming with anticipation. I'd imagined Daniel's face lighting up with genuine gratitude as I presented him with the confirmation. I pictured Amelia embracing me, perhaps even shedding a tear, and I envisioned my cherished grandson Leo toddling barefoot across their living room floor, safe, happy, surrounded by the stability and security I had helped to create for his future. They had been so incredibly persuasive last month. "It's not just about us, Mom," Daniel had insisted, resting his hand on mine across my kitchen table, his gaze sincere. "It's for the baby. This house will be his one day." Amelia had offered a sweet, almost angelic smile, her eyes glistening. "You've already done so much for us, but this would change everything. You'd still be a Conner, of course. Your name's on the title. You're a part of this." They made it sound as though I belonged, as if I were truly building something meaningful with them, a shared future. So I had nodded, swallowing the quiet, persistent unease that had risen within me. My late husband, Robert, bless his cautious soul, would have pressed for more details. He always scrutinized the fine print, every single line. But me, I desperately wanted to trust. I needed to feel connected, valued, close to them. So I said yes. When I pulled into their driveway that morning, their yard looked like something plucked from a glossy magazine. Freshly trimmed flowers bloomed in vibrant hues. The porch was immaculately clean, okay? And a tiny sapphire blue swing hung invitingly from the sprawling oak tree. Robert's voice, half amused, half concerned, echoed in my head. You're spoiling them, Diana. Let them stand on their own 2 feet. But I had brushed it off. This was love, wasn't it? A mother's boundless devotion. It's the very first time they had approached me for assistance. It sounded less like a request and more like a carefully crafted plea wrapped in a promise of togetherness. We're a team, Mom, Daniel had declared, his voice earnest. Always have been. We just need a small loan to bridge the down payment. Nothing too complicated. And you'll be listed as a Conner, of course. Amelia had arrived that day with warm cinnamon rolls still steaming and hugged me tightly. We're so incredibly fortunate to have you, she'd whispered, her voice thick, with what I thought was genuine emotion. I don't know what we'd ever do without your support. It felt good, validating, like I was truly needed, seen, but it hadn't stopped there. The second time, they wanted to refinance purely, as Amelia explained, to renovate the nursery. She scrolled through endless pastel color palettes and charming forest animal decals on her phone, showing me options. Soft yellows, maybe a mural, of little foxes. Leo deserves a peaceful space to grow. And I agreed. I always agreed. My desire to help them, to contribute to Leo's well-being, overshadowed any lingering doubts. Then came Daniel's grand business idea. He sat across from me, animated, flipping through sleek brochures and intricate charts, his eyes gleaming with ambition. It's rock solid, Mom. You wouldn't believe the projected margins. It's all short term. Once it takes off, we all benefit. He used words that felt too fast, too large for my comfort zone. Venture, partnership, equity, growth. Words designed to impress, to disarm. But I didn't want to appear old-fashioned or distrustful. I didn't want him to think I didn't believe in his capabilities. Robert's voice, quiet but firm, stirred in the recesses of my mind. Slow down, Diana. Never sign what you don't fully understand. But I brushed it aside once more. Daniel wasn't like the tragic figures in the news, those heartbreaking tales of children callously draining their parents, counts and vanishing. My son wasn't like that. He was good. He was family. So I signed again. And again. Looking back now, I can see it all with chilling clarity. Every manufactured smile, every carefully placed compliment, every seemingly warm dinner invitation was all part of an elaborate, long-running performance. Not just to earn my affection, but to gain unrestricted access to everything my love encompassed. After the call finally disconnected, after I had pressed the button they'd forgotten, I simply sat there. No sobbing, no furious outburst, only a profound, deafening silence, the house around me. Once a sanctuary of comfort and familiarity, now felt like a stranger's cold, impersonal space. The rhythmic ticking of the kitchen clock, once a comforting background hum, now sounded like a relentless countdown to an unknown doom. I rose slowly and turned off the kettle, which had long since begun to scream its mournful, empty song. I carefully righted the teacup, though its contents were now irrevocably lost within the fibers of the rug below. The candle on the windowsill still flickered, casting a gentle glow. It sent a mix of honeysuckle and eucalyptus, Amelia's thoughtful gift from last Christmas. I stared at the tiny flame for a long moment. 'Twas small, calm, and utterly controlled. I matched its stillness, drawing on a wellspring of inner strength I hadn't realized I possessed. This was my home, my money, my name emblazoned on every legal document. And yet, somehow, I had allowed it all to be used like a blank check, with my profound love as the primary currency. I rested both hands on the cool marble counter, grounding myself in the tangible present. Then, my voice steady and low, I spoke aloud, just for myself to hear. Not anymore. Not out of bitterness. Not yet out of a burning desire for revenge. Just a stark, piercing clarity. Somewhere between all the endless paperwork and the sweet, deceptive cinnamon rolls, I had lost my footing. I had let the immense grief of losing Robert cloud my judgment, dimming my innate caution. 42 years of marriage leaves behind a silence that echoes through every empty hallway, a profound void that longs to be filled. I had desperately wanted to matter to someone again, to feel needed, cherished, and they knew that. They exploited it ruthlessly. But now the very air had shifted. I could feel it deep inside, beneath the dull ache of betrayal, beneath the scorching shame of my own foolishness, a sharp, cutting edge of something entirely new. Resolve. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew this much. With absolute certainty, I would not be quiet anymore. The word Amelia had used months ago echoed in my head. Transparent, she had said with a charming smile, handing me the new tablet. Now everything's linked, so you don't have to worry. You can see it all. Total transparency. Back then, I hadn't bothered to look. I hadn't thought I needed to. Had trusted them implicitly. The apps were just decorative icons on a home screen I never bothered to tap. But now I tapped. Another folder ominously labeled Investment Package Joint. My name was listed again, this time as the primary guarantor. 3 more folders followed in quick succession. High-risk brokerage accounts, cryptocurrency wallets, leveraged. Loans against assets I didn't even know were being utilized. Was all meticulously documented, all under my identity, and I had, unknowingly, signed every single access point. The power of attorney, the joint accounts, the refinances. They had systematically used my pristine credit score like an impenetrable shield, protecting their reckless ventures, their questionable business maneuvers, and their blatant personal indulgences, all without a word of explanation or consent. To me, every folder I opened felt like peeling back another layer of a festering infection I never knew was there. Quietly hidden, relentlessly growing. I sat in the kitchen, the tablet heavy on my lap, my hands icy and still. Even Willow, my usually aloof cat, paused at the edge of the room, her ears twitching as if sensing the palpable shift in the atmosphere. This wasn't just betrayal. This was exploitation. They hadn't simply lied to me. They had systematically built a fortress of control using my very foundation, my life savings, my trust. I was the silent, unwitting figure propping up their deceitful empire, and I hadn't even known it. If anything failed, if anything collapsed, I would be the name they pointed to, the one left to pick up the pieces facing financial ruin and public humiliation. My eyes scanned the screen, then closed slowly. I hadn't screamed, I hadn't cried, but something deep inside me had irreversibly turned. The trust I had so freely given was dead, and what remained was sharp, utterly focused, and undeniably ready. If they thought I was too old, too kind, too naive to notice, then they had gravely misunderstood me for the very last time. I didn't call anyone. Not Daniel, not Amelia, not even my oldest friend Martha, whom I usually spoke to every Sunday afternoon without fail. Instead, I got to work. I opened the drawer to Robert's old mahogany desk, something I hadn't done in years. Inside were stacks of documents organized with the meticulous precision only he could manage. Folders labeled with dates, account numbers, neatly clipped together. It smelled faintly of old paper and dust, and something older, something deeply dependable. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and began writing, meticulously listing every account I had seen, every suspicious transaction I didn't recognize, every folder in that cloud drive with my name attached. Then I turned on the printer. I printed everything, dozens of pages, bank transfers, brokerage account ledgers, signed authorizations I didn't even remember ever approving. I stacked them methodically on the dining table, each paper heavy with the irrefutable weight of evidence. Willow, my vigilant, Cat jumped up next to the towering stack and curled into a tight ball, like a small sentry on guard duty. "Good girl," I whispered, stroking her soft fur. "We've got some work to do." I then created digital copies, one on a flash drive, another saved to an encrypted folder on my personal laptop. I even backed up the most crucial folder onto a small external hard drive Robert once used for our cherished vacation photos. Not because I was paranoid, but because I was done being blind. With everything meticulously gathered, I sat back and reviewed it all. The intricate structure of their scheme, the quiet, almost elegant sophistication with which they had woven this deceptive web around me. This wasn't some amateur impulsive act. This was meticulously planned, and I had been their silent partner, unwittingly giving them permission, providing them ample room to maneuver, all under the cruel illusion of filial love and gratitude. I wrote a new list on a fresh page. Revoke power of attorney, freeze joint. Credit lines, contact financial advisor. Update will and estate. Secure legal counsel. There was no panic clawing at my chest, no rush of adrenaline, just a quiet, unwavering certainty. The very next day, I called Daniel. My voice was light, casual, utterly familiar. "Sweetheart," I said, infusing my tone with a feigned warmth. "I'd absolutely love to hear more about that business opportunity you mentioned last week. Why don't we sit down and go over it in person?" He hesitated for only a fraction of a second. "Of course, Mom," he replied, a hint of surprise in his voice, quickly masked. "That's a fantastic idea." We agreed to meet at a trendy cafe that Amelia adored, one of those spots with mismatched chairs and soft jazz humming from the ceiling speakers. She always called it rustic chic. I arrived 20 minutes early, ordered a pot of Earl Grey tea, and deliberately chose a table in the far corner, my back to the wall, granting me a full, unobstructed view of the entrance. My small, discreet recording device was carefully positioned, inside my purse, angled precisely toward the table. Daniel arrived right on time. He smiled, kissed my cheek with practiced affection, and settled into the chair across from me as if absolutely nothing had changed between us. "You look wonderful," he commented, his eyes scanning me. "So do you," I replied, returning his smile with a carefully constructed facade of warmth. "How's little Leo?" He gave me a quick update, throwing in a few saccharine anecdotes about his son, and then, just as I had anticipated, his tone subtly shifted. "Actually, Mom, there's something crucial I've been meaning to discuss with you." Here it came, the next act of their deception. "There's this incredible investment window," he said, leaning in slightly, his voice dropping to a confidential whisper. "They've fast-tracked the timeline, and I just need a little more liquidity to finalize my position." "How much?" I asked, my voice calm, betraying none of the turmoil churning within me. He glanced down as if performing a complex mental calculation. "Just 200,000 short-term. It's covered by our existing assets. Barely even a favor, really." I kept my expression warm, inviting. "You've already prepared the paperwork, haven't you?" He grinned, a flash of self-satisfaction. "You know me, always ahead of the curve. It's all ready, just in case you're comfortable moving forward." "And Amelia's on board with this too?" "Course," he said, puffing out his chest. "Slightly, we both are." There it was again, the unified front. The emotional pressure masquerading as a genuine partnership. I sipped my tea, savoring the bitter taste. "Let me review everything first," I said, drawing out the words. "You know, I like to be thorough." A flicker of surprise, quickly suppressed, crossed his face. He recovered smoothly. "Absolutely, Mom. Take all the time you need." We stood, hugged goodbye, his embrace brief and impersonal. He didn't notice how tightly I clutched my purse. Inside, the small recorder had captured every damning word. As I walked to my car, I whispered to myself, "Thank you, Daniel. You just gave me exactly what I needed." The following morning, I dressed in unassuming clothes slacks, a light sweater. Nothing out of the ordinary, but every step I took was deliberate, infused with purpose. My first stop was the office of Martha Caldwell, a sharp financial attorney, recommended by my advisor. She was in her late 50s, composed with the kind of quiet stillness that compels you to lean in when she speaks. "Walk me through everything," she said, flipping open a fresh yellow legal pad. "Leave nothing out," and I didn't. I detailed the loans, the refinanced mortgage, the clandestine business accounts, the deceptive power of attorney, and finally, the cafe recording. She listened without interrupting, her pen barely moving, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she leaned back, nodding once, a small, decisive gesture. "They've left a clear paper trail," she said, her tone calm, yet crisp and authoritative. "This is not just unethical. This is actionable. If you're ready to move forward, we can begin today." I didn't hesitate for a single second. Start now. Over the next hour, we meticulously drafted the necessary paperwork: immediate revocation of power of attorney, comprehensive freeze on all joint credit lines, legal notices to all financial institutions involved, and a crucial updated estate plan stripping Daniel and Amelia of any future claim to my assets. "You may face significant backlash," Martha warned gently, her eyes empathetic. "Emotional manipulation, guilt trips, even outright threats." "I've been preparing for that," I said, my voice steady, my whole life, without even realizing it. She gave me a nod of quiet respect, a silent acknowledgement of the strength she sensed within me. It didn't take long for the first crack to appear in their carefully constructed facade. 2 nights later, Daniel and Amelia were out celebrating some self-proclaimed business milestone. I assumed it was probably another new investor or one of Daniel's speculative deals grandly dressed up as a stroke of brilliance. I imagined the scene clearly: candlelight on the table, expensive wine, Amelia's curated smile across from him. Both of them basking in their imagined ill-gotten success. Then the check would have arrived. Daniel's first credit card, undoubtedly linked to funds he thought were limitless, was declined. He probably chuckled at first, a dismissive laugh. "Must be a glitch," he'd say, waving his hand. "Try it again." The second card also declined. That's when the real panic would have set in, not the loud, explosive kind, but the quiet, choking kind that tightens shoulders, sharpens glances across a restaurant table, and initiates silent, frantic calculations. Dread disguised as confusion. Back at home, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Daniel's name blazed on the screen. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, a voicemail from Amelia followed, her tone tighter, brittle around the edges. "Diana, can you please call us? Something's going on with the accounts. We think there's been a mistake. Maybe the bank made an error. We just need to talk, please." I played the message once, listening to her thinly veiled desperation, then archived it into the same secure folder where I'd saved every damning screenshot, document, and recording. I didn't feel a triumphant surge of satisfaction. I felt a cold, hard confirmation. They had no idea yet what powerful forces had been set in motion. They were still treating this like a minor glitch, a temporary inconvenience they could smooth over with enough charm and spin. But the ground beneath them wasn't merely cracking. It was shifting irrevocably, and I was no longer the woman they thought would do nothing but listen, nod, and agree. I didn't need to call them back, because my silence was starting to speak for me louder than any accusation. The sharp, impatient knock on my front door came just after 8 p.m., 3 insistent raps. I was already prepared. I checked the small voice recorder discreetly hidden behind the hallway vase. It was running, quietly capturing every sound. When I opened the door, Daniel stood there, his jaw tight, his eyes flashing with a raw, unadulterated panic I had never seen before. Amelia hovered anxiously behind him, arms crossed, her lips pressed into a thin, nervous line. "We need to talk," Daniel demanded, almost shaking with suppressed fury. I stepped aside calmly, my demeanor unruffled. "Of course, sweetheart. come in." They walked into the living room and immediately froze. Martha Caldwell was already seated, her briefcase resting beside her, her presence steady, composed, and utterly unmoved. Daniel's voice cracked, thick with confusion and anger. "Who is this?" "My attorney," I said evenly, my voice devoid of emotion. "She's helping me with some overdue estate adjustments." "Estate adjustments," he scoffed, a disbelieving laugh escaping his lips. "Mom, what in the world is going on? You froze our accounts. You pulled the mortgage. We're being denied access to everything." I sat down, gesturing to the chair across from me. "Please sit." He didn't. "You're ruining everything we've built," Daniel snapped, his voice rising. "We're a team." "No," I said softly, looking him straight in the eye. "You built it on me without my consent, without an ounce of respect. That's not a team. That's theft." Amelia finally spoke, her voice trembling, almost pleading. "We were doing this for Leo, Diana, for the family." "For years, I believed that," I replied, turning my gaze to her, my voice unwavering. "But I see now you didn't see me as family. You saw me as funding." Daniel's face turned a furious shade of crimson. "You're destroying your own son." "No," I said, standing slowly, deliberately. "I'm protecting myself, something you clearly never intended to do." Martha opened her briefcase and slid a thick folder across the coffee table toward them. "These are the documents detailing every unauthorized transaction you initiated under your mother's name," she stated, her voice calm and professional. "They've already been submitted to the appropriate authorities." Daniel didn't speak. He just stared, his eyes wide with dawning horror. Amelia reached for his arm, but he pulled away sharply, consumed by his own spiraling realization. "You'll regret this," he whispered, his voice a low, venomous growl. But I didn't flinch. Because regret only comes when you've made the wrong choice. And I had finally definitively made the right one. The door shut behind them with a dull, echoing finality. For a long moment, I stood still in the quiet, not shaken, just profoundly still. Martha packed her briefcase without another word, then turned to me. "They may try to reach out again," she said, her expression serious. "But legally, they're blocked from any access moving forward." I nodded, a sense of calm washing over me. She paused at the door. "Most people don't fight back until it's far too late. You didn't just reclaim your assets, Diana. You reclaimed your voice." After she left, I walked to the fireplace and looked at the old family photo still sitting on the mantel. Daniel as a boy, Amelia smiling brightly, me in the center, holding little Leo in my lap. I picked it up, not in anger, but with a profound, newfound clarity. I opened Robert's old desk drawer, placed the photo inside, and closed it gently, sealing that chapter of my life. Outside, the porch light glowed softly against the darkening sky. It used to mean something more, that soft, hopeful light I left on, yearning for Daniel to drop by for dinner, for a casual chat, for any kind of familial warmth. Now it was just a light, a beacon of my own resilience. And that was enough. I sat at the kitchen table with a fresh cup of tea, the calming aroma filling the air. Willow curled contentedly at my feet, her breathing slow, steady, certain, just like mine. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. What they had taken from me wasn't just money. It was the insidious assumption that I would never push back, that I would keep choosing silence in the name of a twisted, one-sided love. But love without respect is not love. It's control. It's theft. And I had reclaimed every single piece they had counted on me to willingly give away. If you've ever felt used or exploited by the people closest to you, let this story be a powerful reminder. Quiet does not mean weak. Sometimes the loudest answer you can give them is the one you never utter. Sometimes the silence itself is the most powerful storm.